All right, we're gonna check out this Jack Posobiec interview. I don't know anything about this person. This is, by the way, from a channel called Church Militant, which has over 250,000 followers. So be prepared for some pretty awful things to be said, I suppose.
All right, Jack. Well, first, let's talk about the phenomenon of everyone in the conservative world is talking about, which is how giant tech is shutting you down if you're independent and conservative, or independent at all, liberal or conservative. They just don't seem to
Why are they so close? Because they just got done kissing, guys.
want you in the game.
Yeah, so there's really this crazy dynamic that's going on right now. And on one level, yes, it is liberal versus conservative, but I think on a broader perspective, it's actually corporate versus independent, where the big tech giants know that they're getting more money, more ad revenue, they're getting more market share from corporate press.
Yeah, look, the hair isn't really working right here. It looks, you look like you're going bald. I don't know if you actually are, but but people out there, if you're going bald, just own it. Just own going bald. It looks so much better than just like holding on to whatever this is.
And so what they're doing, and YouTube is really leading on this, they're delisting independent sources and they're promoting corporate sources. So we just saw YouTube do this with their new terms of service they outlined, where YouTube really runs off of their auto recommendation, right?
Right.
So you might search for one video on YouTube, I might search for a One American News video, or you might search
He does look like he's using a toupee.
for Church Militant video, right?
Right.
And so we go to, or vice versa, of course. And and so you're going then to look for, potentially, some video that you heard of, or somebody sends you a link, right? That's always how
Yo,
it's,
they are sitting like you guys weren't kidding. Wait. I didn't see the full set earlier. This is too close. This is like I don't know, why would you have your set up like this? Even the table that is ostensibly supposed to be between them looks like it is way too close to them. Wait, Electric Meal, are you kidding or are you serious? I can't, when you're talking about conservatives, I can't tell. This is a very intimate setting. I'm surprised their feet aren't, like, touching. Non-sub gang. Manual breathing. Maybe someone will come along and sub you, okay? No one should be unsubbed in this chat, okay? Get him!
heard of, or
Get
somebody
him,
sends you a link,
boys!
right? That's always how it starts. Somebody
Sure.
sends you a link. They say, hey, you gotta check this video out, right? Share it with you. Right, well then, you'd think that naturally, the next video that might come up would be a video that's either from the same producer,
Right.
the same outlet, or something that's very similar.
Wait, how old is Jack Posobiec? Wait, how old is this person? Oh my gosh, he's 35 years old? This guy is only 5 years older than me. He looks like he's 50. Holy fuck. I gotta tell you guys, hate ages you. When you're so busy, like, hating immigrants and gays and trans people, it ages you.
In topic to what what you're watching, right? If I'm listening to if I'm listening
This guy's actually 15. You didn't know that, did you? Actually, Robert Redford's great-great-grandson. Salmon Moose, thank you for gifting a sub to Manual Breathing.
to a band, I've listened to an artist, I might want to listen to another song by the same artist, right?
Right.
It'll have to come up in my playlist, whatever. But what they're doing now on YouTube is when they go to those auto recommendations, if you're watching one video, they're going to auto recommend you to somebody who's got a corporate background. They're going to pick one of their corporate sponsors, put them as the next one that comes up in the autoplay because they...
Wait, this isn't how it works. They just the algorithm is just weighted to suggest you like more of their corporate ad buyers. But like if you go down the alt-right rabbit hole, you're gonna see just like tiny alt-right YouTubers you've never heard of before. Oh yeah, I tweeted this out, Entrama. Yeah. No, I tweeted this out a few days ago. This is actually pretty funny. Twitter admits bias in algorithm for right-wing politicians and news outlets. So you guys, you know how like conservatives have been crying for like the past, I don't know, year, 2 years, 3 years that like social media is biased against them because they get banned for saying the N-word? Well, it turns out that the Twitter algorithm actually promotes right-wing politicians and news outlets and right-wing bias in your newsfeed. If you are on Twitter, you are getting a worldview, regardless if you're in the left or the right, that is skewed towards the right. More people are getting skewed towards the right by Twitter than by any other social media outlet. Let's see. Twitter has admitted it amplifies more tweets from right-wing politicians and news outlets than content from left-wing sources. The social media platform examined tweets from elected officials in 7 countries in the UK, US, Canada, France, Germany, Spain, and Japan. It also studied whether political content from news organizations was amplified on Twitter, focusing primarily on US news sources such as Fox News, The New York Times, and BuzzFeed. The study compared Twitter's home timeline, the default way its 200 million users are served tweets, in which an algorithm tailors what users see, with the traditional chronological timeline where the most recent tweets are ranked first. The research found that in 6 out of 7 countries, apart from Germany, tweets from right-wing politicians received more amplification from the algorithm than those from the left. Right-leaning news organizations were more amplified than those on the left, and generally politicians' tweets were more amplified by an algorithmic timeline than by a chronological timeline. Okay, under the research, a value of 0% meant tweets reached the same number of users on the algorithm-tailored timeline as on its chronological counterpart, whereas a value of 100% meant tweets achieved double the reach. On this basis, the most powerful discrepancy between right and left-wing was in Canada. Liberals 43% to conservatives 167%. Holy moly. What? Followed by the UK, Labour 112% versus Conservatives 176%. Even excluding top government officials, the results were similar, the document said. Does it say what the US rate was? I guess we could look at it. Yeah, so even in the United States, the right is amplified more than the left. Yeah. Wow, wowee, what a surprise.
Know that a lot of people, they throw up YouTube, they put it on, they have it come up, and then they just let it roll.
Right.
And so you see this a lot with YouTube, so that it drives people away from independent providers. And now we're seeing in terms of, they call it, they use these Orwellian names like healthy conversation, initiative. We're gonna promote healthy conversation.
This is just capitalism. You're describing capitalism. You are always describing capitalism when you're talking about these things. Hey, Potato, how you doing?
or combating disinformation. I said, well, who determines whether or not something is when I hear disinformation as a former Navy intelligence officer, I think, state-run, military, like Iran claims they killed X amount of American troops.
Heck
without
yeah,
any
Real
facts.
Radhom.
So that sounds like disinformation, right?
Everyone go follow Real Radhom, someone who has some of the best facial hair on Twitch. Tapotato, thank you so much for hitting that follow button. Also, if y'all are here, hit that follow button. I appreciate it. Let's pump these numbers up. Last week we got a grand total of like 2 new follows. Today we've gotten a grand total of like 4 new follows. Those are rookie numbers, okay? I've been streaming for a fucking year, all right? Let's get those numbers up, all right? Subatomic Socks, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. I would raid Real Radhom, except they are not streaming at the moment, but maybe they will be streaming by the time I end stream. And consider giving me bits and subs, because I am going to be moving into a new apartment soon, and I need to be able to afford used furniture and food. So please do help me, as well as affording rent. So thank you.
Without any evidence of this, and it turned out that was disinformation. But they're saying, well, people who have a different opinion, or people who have different.
It's true. You are transphobic if you don't give me your money. Noir Lambert, thank you for the 200 biddies.
Sure. You're obviously talking about comparing it to some sort of objective standard of what information is, and
Exactly. So, so they'll justify this by saying, oh, we're promoting healthy conversations. We're mapping neural pathways, we're combating disinformation, but what they're really doing is they're de-ranking people who are independent, and they're up-ranking their corporate partners, because they know eventually that those corporate partners are going to get more views, they're going to get more conversions, they're going to get more bang for their buck, and to an extent, I'm sympathetic to...
It's true. Noir Lambert is the only one of you who is not transphobic right now.
The economics of that, right? That is a very capitalist kind of thing to go. But people need to.
It's okay, Dragon Princess. You can also avoid being transphobic by posting a link to a link to my Twitch on Discord, or not on Discord, on Reddit, and telling everyone how cool I am.
Understand that one of the things that's so special about the internet is that so much of the content, and certainly with social media, it's user-generated. Right?
Correct.
People found ways to be able to connect in ways that never would have seemed possible before the internet existed. People can reach out and form coalitions in terms of ideas, in terms of beliefs. We see this. We've seen harm and danger that's come from this, and risk, and we've also seen great benefit that's come from this.
Sure, like everything.
I don't know, Solazar Biscuit. Why did you give me money earlier and not now? That you should have been saving it for when you could avoid being transphobic.
Right. And it's you can't put the genie back in the bottle either, right on this. So it's never going to stop, and that's what they're trying to do. They're saying there's too much of this independent activity. There's too much of this going on. We need to clamp down on it somehow. How do we do that? And that's why they're trying to shut down that. But the other problem is that there are these corporate narratives.
Kentucky AP, thank you for the gifted tier 1 sub.
People running corporate media who do have their own agendas, who are involved in
Dragon Princess, thank you for the 3 biddies. I really appreciate it.
That does affect their worldview. Typically outside of the United States, you see a lot of state-run media. You see state-run media in Britain, in Canada. I mean,
I love the irony of these two talking about state-run and biased media on a church militant stream. Their stream is literally sponsored by the church.
They're not, not to talk about just Iran and China and the Middle East.
Yeah, it's pretty
all over the place.
Pretty standard throughout Europe.
It's actually quite standard.
Yep.
And so you have to understand that there are state interests at play there. The idea that you're de-ranking independence in favor of corporate or state-run media means that you're now missing out on narratives and perspectives that should be at the very heart of what the internet and what social connection, actual connection, is all about.
Sure. When you look at something like, independence. And again, that's a big bag. It's not just conservative, political, or theological conservative things. It's everybody who's independent. But theological and political conservatives tend to make up the larger bulk of those independents, because the liberal message has all these other, mainstream media to get out on and be, trotted out every day. So it sort of looks like an attack on conservative, political, theological conservatives. And it is, but it's not just that. I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, Jenny's cigarette going on estrogen probably quelled, a good chunk of like my anxiety related to my body. But then I still have social anxiety, so.
Earlier.
Right, and no, there's a financial angle to it as well. There's a financial angle to it as well, and that's what I think. That's one piece of it that I think doesn't get talked about enough from folks. But at the same time, because of the internet, there's also been never a better time for people to become their own business, for people to start their own.
Yo, don't do my wholesome hunk Brendan Fraser like that, Salmon Moose.
Organizations, for people to join organizations that they never would have had the opportunity to before, because your phone can be your studio, it can be your office, it can be your work center, wherever you are. You've got to be smart about it. You can't, you can't run around buying all these status symbol type items and then also expect to, live the life of a digital nomad or something, right? But I know people who do very well in the freelance market. I know people.
Shucks, ma'am.
In the words of Brendan Fraser, shucks, ma'am. The internet cannot get enough of the actor's return to the big screen in Martin Scorsese's upcoming Western Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, despite starring in recent projects like Doom Patrol and No Sudden Move, his recent casting news caused his
he actually looks way better than he did in Doom Patrol.
name to trend on Twitter, with many calling this his comeback or rebirth. One fan wrote, "It's Brendan Fraser's world, and we are simply members of his congregation." While another...
Yo, that Maggie May Fish, what the heck? Sorry, describing Maggie May Fish to me as, just a fan is really weird to me, because, I love their videos. Maggie's videos are really good. I've never watched them on stream, but I like them off stream.
Added, the Brendan Fraser Renaissance is here. But seriously, our favorite part was Brendan's adorable reaction when he was told about the internet's support during an interview with Lindley Key.
I'm going to work with Scorsese and Leo and Bob De Niro.
Yes, I saw. Congratulations. That's so
Thank
exciting.
you. I think I might be sick. A little anxious.
Oh no.
I mean, it's going to be fun.
You got this. You've got this.
Got it.
Brendan
Just know that the internet
in a cowboy
is
hat.
So behind you. We're so supportive. There are so many people out there who love you, and we're rooting for you, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Shucks, ma'am.
Guys, Brendan Fraser
He's so cute. Also, chat, if you haven't seen Doom Patrol yet, you're missing out on, incredibly great Brendan Fraser content. He provides such a great performance in Doom Patrol. If you haven't watched it, it's probably the best thing on HBO Max, aside from, Studio Ghibli and, I don't know, maybe Dune. You know what? Maybe after stream, we will watch the first season of Doom Patrol, or the first half season of Doom Patrol, okay? He's so good. He's such a good actor who's been, hit by hard times.
Independent journalists who've done very, very well with YouTube. They've been able to stay independent, stay monetized, and they're doing quite well.
JJ416, I'm sure you are a currently handsome 30 and or 40 something man
at it, and it doesn't take a lot of overhead, because when you build things up,
it's kind of spoopy, Hale Soybeck,
in a very professional manner with a lot of integrity, then as you find your audience, as people hear what you're putting out, it's people actually reflecting a market interest in what you have to say and who you are and the message that you're putting out. So
it's so interesting that this guy is a prominent figure on the right, and he is so boring to listen to. He's so boring. I don't understand the fascination with him.
Whether that be a conservative opinion, or whether that be a religious opinion that people agree with, or whether that be, in times like these, postmodern secularism and just rampant nihilism running.
Hey, Austin
around.
W.
People
Travis.
You see this a lot with Zoomers even now. They're saying, hey, you guys haven't
Zodiac Gaming Channel, thank you for the follow. Though I thought you were already following.
done such a great job. We'd like to find some tradition. We'd like to find some principles. We'd like to find people who have integrity. Where can we find that? How do we find that? And it's fantastic that there's organizations that are reminding folks that the church has always been there for that.
Now, I don't want to manufacture his consent. I want to get it coercelessly.
Maybe not all members of the church or certain officials, but the actual body of the belief.
Absolutely. It's interesting when you talk about, let's just call it the blogosphere, because in the Catholic world, the folks who are really on the blogosphere.
Young Castro was okay. Not great, but okay.
Sphere for the most part, making the most noise, if you might want to say, are outfits like us, Church Militant, Life Site News, a number of places, reporting on, boy, this is goofy, what's going on in Rome. Why are the bishops covering all this stuff up and all that? And I think what's interesting, 5 years ago, nobody would have paid attention to any of it. All of a sudden, the Pope is, telling reporters and telling, Jesuit seminarians, you can't pay attention to those people. You can't they did name us in a separate document, and there's all this, oh no, stay away from that. Oh no, go to your trusted sources, and and there is this ramping up within the church, in the Catholic Church world. There's this ramping up of doing kind of what like the tech giants are doing across the cultural scene, which assumes into it religion, but specifically in the Catholic.
I just want to point out that they've been talking for about 10 minutes, and none of the things that they've said have been true. I just want to point that out to you guys.
World. And
good night, Archangel.
Vatican released an article a year ago.
Have a good day.
Saying that Church Militant was aligned with evangelical Protestants to create a theocracy under Trump in the United States. We blew up laughing. We're like, what? We got named in an article.
Ha ha ha. Why would an organization called the Church Militant be interested in creating a theocracy? I wonder why. Why would our organization that is described as a militant church be interested in a theocracy? These people are just full of garbage. Hey, non-binary superpowers.
Article from the Vatican? Are you kidding me? And but there seems to be a great pushback starting from the establishment, religious establishment, cultural establishment. They're sensing that there's something welling up. And obviously we saw that in 2016 with the election, but I think as you move into this, there's this crossover of the political and the theological, and it's present everywhere. And I think the pushback from this, so-called deep state.
Young Engels looked like he was ready to corner you at a party and talk to you until you cried of boredom.
People have said there's a deep state in the church pushing back against it also.
So there's a couple of angles at play.
I love it. Yeah. No. The church isn't against us. It's the deep state within the church.
Here, which is kind of interesting to see that because it actually comes from the people. So talking about Trump or Brexit or any of these big political movements, this idea of populism.
Right.
And what people don't realize is that populism is a force that cuts across the political divide, because there's right-wing populists and there's left-wing populists, right? You got your Trump supporters.
I don't know. Young Marx kind of does it for me. Not gonna lie. A little bit of a hottie McDottie. Yeah, I don't know why they're sitting so close together. They look like they're about to kiss.
But
got
you have
AOC,
your, AOC,
yeah,
Bernie
sure.
Sanders, right? There's lots of left-wing populists out there, but there's also a huge push about accountability for our leaders.
Yes.
That this started. I mean, you can kind of see the nucleus of it in a sense with some of the phraseology that like Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party had.
Right.
There was sort of like a proto populist movement because it was all about holding leaders accountable. Now one was banks, one was political, but some of that 99 versus the one, right? That same
Should have been Bernie, Austin, W. Travis. Unfortunately, it was not.
pyramid of a dichotomy. And so in the same vein, when you see people fighting against President Trump, and you see, the media saying we have to hold him accountable. He's the leader. We have to hold him accountable. We have to work on this. We have to do investigations. We have to, have this and that. That creates a new precedent now.
Yes.
That if you're going to hold him to this level of scrutiny, then shouldn't we hold all leaders to that level of scrutiny? To the point. So the minute they
Young Kropotkin, not hot, but you know who is hot? You know who is hot? Young Tolstoy. Young Tolstoy? Fucking snack. Look at this guy. Look at this absolute Chad. Look at him. Look at him. Going on to found one of the first anarcho schools. Absolute Chad. Also, just remember, guys, like, it wasn't that long ago that this stuff happened. It's not so long ago that this stuff happened. Leo Tolstoy lived until like the 1980s or something like that, 1970s. Like, it's not that long ago that this stuff happened. But yeah, he was kind of like a Chad. Look at him. Look at that.
You start going over
Hey, Lady Necro.
every word of every tweet and every meeting that he's had, every minute of his day. What did he have for breakfast? What did he do?
Right.
So when you hold one world leader,
Yeah, world leaders should be held accountable by democracy. That's kind of the entire point of leftists.
to that level of scrutiny, now that same precedent is
you've
going to be
opened the
set
door, right?
for all world leaders, regardless of whether it's political, whether it's religious, and other, and getting people to ask questions about what's going on.
Oh yeah, young Emma Goldman always looked like she was about to tell a cop to go fuck themselves. Like, look at this absolutely amazing picture. Look at this absolutely amazing picture of her. Just like, she looks like she's about to tell off a cop right then and there, okay? Also, what a great outfit. Just a stellar 10 out of 10 would wear today.
On why things are going on, and I don't think
I love how we've managed to turn this stream into young leftist figures I'd find attractive.
quite realize the situation that they've created.
That's true.
Or to some extent the situation that existed that Trump then exploited and able to become president, because I think it's actually a little
Real Radham, real talk, I'm 30. I don't feel like I'm that I don't feel like I'm super hot, okay? People tell me I am, I don't believe it.
bit more of the latter.
Emma Goldman was based AF, Tobal Hib. She was an anarchist. Super cool.
Than the former.
Yeah, it does seem that he, we were talking.
See, look, Kropotkin just doesn't do it for me. I like this. Not attracted to this. Sorry.
Talking about this earlier, that when he talks, you've got the political establishment. It's like, oh, that's not true, but he talks like a normal guy, and normal guys don't walk around, saying 38.2%. They go almost half, and that's how you.
Wait, I love how he's just defending Trump telling lies. Yeah, normal guys just don't walk around getting their facts right. Well, he's not a normal guy. He's the fucking president of the United States.
You talk, and that's speaking, I think, to this dynamic, this populism of, we don't need this exact precision in your speech. We don't need you to be,
See, Real Radham, I guess I just can't conceive of that idea because I feel like I was not hot during any of my 20s until I started transitioning like 3 years ago, I don't know. I guess I'm going to be hot in my 30s.
These guys attacked our embassy, send in the troops. What's so hard to figure out about that? And yet, again, you have this resistance from the people. It's like they're hanging on to power by their fingernails.
Did he follow the specific statute of the 1973 powers agreement?
I love how they're just making fun of, like, politicians who follow the law.
He sent in the troops to protect the embassy.
Yeah, they're
found out
attacking the
guy
embassy,
who was in
folks.
charge of it. They took care of him. I mean, these are moves that are not going to be seen as unpopular by a majority of Americans,
Right.
because
Ancom Libra, I'm gonna have big old titties. I'm gonna be like out there shaking my booty. I want to be able to dance with my friends at, like, I don't know, loud establishments after hours, and I want to be like, I don't know. I want to be where the people are.
they're not left-right issues. They're up-down issues.
Sure.
Right? They're up in terms of the country, in terms of the people, defense, and I think that, at least from a foreign policy perspective, people want to know that, hey, number one, you and your family are safe, and number two, that your kids aren't going to.
Real Radham, I need to get hotter. This might be hot, but we need to go hotter, okay? We're like we're the surface of the sun, okay? But we need to go hotter. We need to go to the mantle of the sun, where, like, the bonds between atoms break down, and it's just like a primordial subatomic soup. All right.
Going to be deployed overseas for some, fetch quest adventure again, like
Right.
we saw time and time again in the previous administration. So they kind of dial it back there. One of the worst things that these former powers that be, or in some states still powers that be, but also have this huge undercurrent of people. So they've got money, they've got financing, they've got institutional power, but the people are what they've lost. And because of social media, because of independent media, now the people are realizing there are ways that they.
Yeah, I've always said young Bernie Sanders is hot, okay? Even though I prefer middle-aged Bernie Sanders, okay? Middle-aged Bernie Sanders, hotter than young Bernie Sanders, okay?
can get information.
But that also might be my bias towards 30-something Jewish men. Oh no.
They can get facts, that they can find out narratives, stories that are going on in the world
Do I have a
that aren't
type?
being talked about by
Am I being
more
called out on stream right
establishment-friendly,
now?
corporate-friendly type outlets. And that's
'Cause they have a dog in the fight.
threat, a huge threat.
Yeah.
Right, in
I have a type when it comes to men, I suppose. It's either twinks or hot middle-aged Jewish men.
in politics and entertainment, we used to call this access media.
Right,
We call
exactly.
it access media, right? When a great example to kind of explain it to folks who don't understand what access media is Rotten Tomatoes, right?
Yes.
Right, and I know it's kind of silly, but it'll make sense. So companies, when they're putting out a new movie, right, there's tons of money invested in a new movie. Obviously, Hollywood movies, it's so many of them these days, 100 million plus budget, right?
Sure.
So much money, tons of money riding on it. Some of them completely fail. It's bad, right? The Cats right now, oh my God, what they were thinking. Cats isn't even that good of a musical to begin with. I said it.
You're correct.
And yes, there's one or two good songs, but yeah, the musical itself, not so much. And so what they're doing though is they know that people are going to say, all right, what's the score on Rotten Tomatoes? Is it a high score or low score?
My friend Lisa told me that I was hot, and I crush on her so hard.
Who writes those scores, right? Those scores are based off of
You're
the
welcome,
reviews
Elsa.
that are given early on. So the earliest reviews are the ones that matter the most.
Right.
So what do the studios do?
Bernie is kind of like a lefty Doc Brown. Also, thank you for making me turn this boring conversation into something way more interesting.
Arrange these press screenings, and they give out invites to the press to be able to attend these early screenings so that they can then write the reviews.
Right.
So if you're that company, you have a financial advantage to make sure, or financial incentive to make sure that the people that are in that room are going to give you the best possible reviews so you can get the highest score. So
I love that that Jack Posobiec is like using the example of like companies giving screenings to film critics as like how corruption happens. Just as an FYI, like film critics are the most notorious like bunch of assholes when it comes to like what they like and what they don't like. You can think you have like an entire slate of people who are going to positively watch your film and still have it bomb in the reviews, okay? Like it doesn't matter. Film critics are the most notorious snobs. Like snobbery and film criticism like go hand in hand, okay?
people go out and see your movie, give return on investment. So who you go invite to the screening?
Yeah, well, obviously all the folks that love
Joe Hill. I mean, he's okay. He looks like he'd be boring, though.
You're going to vote the folks who love you, the folks that are very helpful to you, the folks that give you great reviews. There was actually, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there was a kind of a scandal about this years ago where there was this one journalist, called himself a movie critic, but it was like, no matter what movie he saw, it was the greatest, it was the most superlative, and he would come up with these wonderful, you could pick the worst movie possible, and this was just a phenomenal masterpiece.
Splendid presentation of never before seen,
Right, that's an accent.
Yeah, that's what film critics are like. Say the people who've never been like 5 minutes on film Twitter. Holy moly. Guys, have you guys ever opened up like film Twitter? Have you guys ever checked out that part of Twitter? Like, you've heard of Black Twitter, you've heard of like video game Twitter. Have you ever checked out film Twitter? Film Twitter is like the most backstabbing, snobbery-laced place on Twitch. And by Twitch, I mean Twitter, all right? It's like 200 comments of people commenting on how, like, one perfect shot, like, used a GIF instead of a still frame. Like, or how, like, well, really, it wasn't actual practical special effects. They used CGI for those muzzle flares. Like, it is absolutely just like absolute cutthroat, absolute like nitpicky bullshit from the top to the bottom. Like, you're like, hey guys, did you know that like Aragorn broke his toe in that one scene where he kicked an orc helmet? And like every person on film Twitter will be like, yeah, idiot, you fucking rube, where have you been for the past 20 years? Oh, I'm sorry, did you not watch the extended editions when they came out back in 2007? Like, I don't know. It's a weird place. 'Tis a silly place. I started my career in Hollywood VFX.
access journalist, right? That's an access journalist who's
Well, technically, Antrama, I am a film critic because I've reviewed several films, okay? I reviewed several films that had to do with the video game industry, and I wrote reviews of them, so technically I'm a film critic.
giving away their integrity, who's eschewing their integrity,
Right.
so that they can get greater access with the subject, greater access to the production, more inside sources, and can get access to those nice perks, those nice trips. And so there's obviously in politics,
Twins is getting a sequel?
or in religion or in business, or really anything you're covering,
Sure.
can become an issue for people who are involved in journalism, because are you carrying water or are you reporting something accurately?
Exactly.
And so at One American News, that's a big thing that we
Leah, thank you. Just thank you so much. You do so much for the communities you're in, and we are blessed by you being here.
take pretty seriously.
Drink some water.
And that's
I'm
why
out of
we,
whiskey
we're
now,
very clear about
Entrama.
when we're doing opinion
Good
versus
night.
commentary,
Get good
versus,
sleep.
versus
Thank you
fact-based
for being a
journalism.
real pal.
And that there have been times where we've reported things that, the White House is, oh, we don't like that report very much. Well, that's what our sources are telling us. If you've got more information, I'd be happy to hear
to
it.
take it, yeah.
I'd be happy to report that out and get your side in there, because that's fair. Because that's
Sure,
just fair.
absolutely.
It's to say, all right, here's what my source said. Do you guys have a response? Can I put both? And here's the story, right? And you do a package. That's actual. It used to be the rule was, you needed two sources to do a story, right? So if you hear something from one person, it's, oh, that's interesting. You get two sources. Oh, okay, two sources confirm that. The president had raisin bran for breakfast. this morning,
French
you know?
toast.
Yeah,
Right,
French
no.
toast.
Twins 2 is gonna be called Triplets. Alright. Alright, Hollywood.
My source told me French toast.
You said French toast. Oh, the White House, of course, there was so it actually was French toast with raisin bran on the side. But
It is. I mean, there's a way that you go about getting information as a journalist and
Right.
do it and checking and double checking and this and that and everything. But I mean, you brought up an excellent point when you've got part of here we refer to it as the Catholic establishment media. They're not on the payroll of bishops, so to speak, but they enjoy the perks of reporting nice things about the bishops or the whatever, the hierarchy, the establishment, whatever. And we're like, guys, where's your integrity? Where's your integrity? Some of these very men you're like cheering and doing whatever, been part of the sex abuse cover-up. They run a chancery where they leave people in place, who are part of it, and they know it. And it really does come down to, and I think people see that enough. When evil kind of begins to tip the scales, it affects everybody's life.
I love how these people talk in platitudes instead of like actual concrete sayings. When evil begins to tip the scales. Like what? No, we don't live in a comic book. What do you mean? What does that look like? What is the evil you're talking? What? When pedophilic priests start tipping the scales, isn't that like a blight on your own perspective? Like, what is this?
And people are like, wait a minute, what's going wrong? Something's wrong here. And I think that's true across the board. It may be part of the reason of sort of the birth of the populist movement, I think.
it's like that. If you ever saw the Lego movie, they have that song.
Yeah.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of the team. It's like you're just singing. Everything is awesome all the time, every day. It's all it's all sun drops and roses and everything. But then suddenly you realize, wait a minute. And I think people, and I say this as a Catholic myself, that the church does have a massive public problem right now, because public perception is scandal after scandal, and then the church not really owning up to it, right?
Oh, yeah.
The church could very quickly and very forcefully, right, take major steps to clean this up. And I think most Catholics would cheer them and applaud them
Sure
for
they would.
doing so. I mean, I remember there was a
Yeah, I think if that was the case, the Catholic Church would be cleaning up its act right now, instead of hiding pedophiles for like 40 years.
new report that was released a year or two ago in Pennsylvania.
Turns out a lot of people don't like learning that their local priest molested like 50 to 60 kids,
And our local pastor got up and said, every single priest that's involved with this thing is going to be investigated, and if so, they're going to be turned over for prosecution. The entire church applauded.
Sure.
I mean, everybody was cheering. They said,
And then nothing happened.
thank you for just saying it,
Right.
right, and for having the wherewithal to understand that this is where the feelings of the flock are.
Yeah.
This is where the emotions are. I mean, there's so much trust that is placed in these officials. The money that's given, that we're hoping is going to fund poverty in the community, as we're told again and again, and then we find out it's going to these migration schemes and bringing illegals and refugee resettlements.
Oh yeah, that's why the Catholic Church is evil, because they help immigrants, not because of the pedophile stuff. All right, okay, buddy.
And everything else. And so what about the family down the street that
Yeah, what about the food pantry?
Yeah, the food pantry.
What about the pro-life pregnancy center that needs a 4D ultrasound machine?
Yeah, what about that pro-life pregnancy center that is busy spending all of its money pretending to be an abortion clinic?
Can't we? I thought that's where we were getting all this stuff. So when you realize that that's what's going on, and now that more of this is being exposed on a greater scale by independent journalists,
Right.
I would love to see what Jack Posobiec said about the Pope coming out as anti-capitalist. You know what? Let's take a look. Jack Posobiec, Pope. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. This is what he said. If the Pope is going to make non-religious political statements, you have every right as a Catholic to correct him. I love this. I love this. Yeah, I mean, the Pope, I am Catholic, and the Pope is an infallible instrument of God, but also, if he's gonna talk about non-religious issues, then yeah, he's totally fallible. He's a totally fallible instrument of God, and we shouldn't listen to him, okay? But also, he's an infallible instrument of God, and we should listen to him when he agrees with me. Jack Posobiec. That is how I talk. Also, why do I look like an actual man in my profile picture and like a creepy aged up 5-year-old when I give interviews? I don't know. As a Catholic, you cannot disobey the Pope. Yeah, I mean, I guess Jack Posobiec's a pretty shitty Catholic. He'll have to list that on his list of sins when he goes to confession, I guess.
It's, I think, getting Catholics to wake up quite a bit more, but it's also creating a problem for those in power, because the more they fight to squelch it and push back, it's actually going to create more of a problem for them.
Sure.
Because it's going to look like they're just trying to cover it up.
Yeah, and I think that it looks like that because it is that. You look across the board at what's going on. I mean, I think there's been 3 bishops already this year.
It's only going to drive people away.
Yeah. Look, Jesus came and had a lot of religious ideas about like how the world should work, about like, I don't know, providing for the needy and the homeless and the hungry or whatever. But like, when the Pope talks about it, it's that's not a religious idea. That's a political idea, and don't listen to him about that. Also, Jesus was white. He definitely wasn't brown. Fuck them brown people, am I right? My name's Jack Posobiec.
Going to drive people away.
Yeah, and you really look at there's so many dynamics at play in this sort of war over the soul of the church right now. It's political, this whole globalist agenda thing that Pope Francis seems to be pushing. There's the acquiescence of all of this on the part of so many in the hierarchy, particularly in the U.S., but around the world. I mean, we just heard, short while ago that a bishop in Germany is going to eliminate the Nicene Creed from Mass because it's offensive. Because some people might take offense hearing that,
I do think, like, one of the things that I find really fascinating, right, just about, like, the history of religion and stuff, is, like, how can you reconcile, like, the Pope being infallible when you, like, look into, like, the history of the Nicene Creed? or like the history of like the various religious beliefs that like a lot of Christians hold. You know, like when we talk about this stuff, guys, like the Nicene Creed was something decided upon by like for like political reasons at the time, like with the input of the Roman emperor. Like, and it's weird that like to this day it's something that holds sway over so much of the church. And like I don't know, like you can apply that to so many different things, right? Like there were so many different ecumenical councils, there were so many like ideas about the nature of Christ, the nature of God. Um, isn't that the prayer I had to memorize in fourth grade? Yeah, a lot of people had to learn the Nicene Creed, you know. And it's weird because, well, you'd think if the popes were infallible, they'd get it right the first time, you know, you know, um, or like the contents of the Bible are literally editorialized, but also the Word of God, duality. Well, yeah. And also, there are a whole lot of ideas that modern Christians embrace today that would have been completely alien when, like, the Nicene Creed was adopted. For example, like, the idea of Satan, that's a modern construct, guys. That isn't something that's in the actual biblical text. Satan, hell, these are concepts that aren't in original biblical Christianity. They're in our cultural understanding of Christianity, but they aren't in the actual books. Aside from like ideas of like Shaitan, which is like God's prosecutor, but not like an evil, malevolent force designed to like fight God. There's not really a mention of hell. There's just a mention of like fire and like, you know, purification. You know, there's not like this idea of eternal suffering. And it's just really interesting that like when you look at like the actual texts of these documents and the beliefs of people who profess to understand them, it's very divergent. And then you get it even more divergent when you hit like these ecumenical councils. And there's more than just like the Nicene, the Council of Nicaea. There are numerous other ones as well that helped codify what belonged in the actual Bible. For example, there are a lot of other texts that could have been included in the Bible and weren't because of like church councils. And that adds further complexity to this entire thing, you know? It's very interesting. Yeah, that's what the Catholic Church is, not about the literal words in the Bible, but how they should be interpreted. Yeah, but like, I don't know, it seems very messy to me, especially when you're talking about a religion that professes its figurehead as being infallible, you know? Hey, Atadak, I did get good news, and I also got very bad news, but you know what? Good news is good.
God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. What?
I don't even know how to respond. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Pretty just eliminate the church because it's
pretty much
offensive.
the cornerstone doctrine of the faith right there.
Kind of the Trinity is sort of the foundational thing.
Just
of what,
one creed that's got. I mean, that's the point of a creed. So if you don't actually, that's actually.
I want them to casually explain how the Trinity works. I really want them to casually explain that right now. I would love for them to do that because literally there are entire like textbooks to try and wrap your head around that concept. Maximise, thank you. I'm super excited to move into a new place, you know?
The definition of the word creed.
Sure.
So I mean, and again, this is postmodern secularism.
Yeah.
It's this idea
insanity.
that everyone is equal, everyone is special, nobody's wrong. There's just different versions of truth, and that's what we talked about social media, right? It's which is actually kind of funny because on one side they're saying, well, everyone has their own truth, but you're spreading disinformation. So wait a minute.
Yeah, so how do you know you have the right one? Why, like, you aren't even attempting to prove that in this conversation.
Well, hold on a second. But I thought you
this
just
is
said
my
that-
truth.
This is my truth. I said no, not you. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion. Conservatives say anything. No, not you. Not like that.
Conservatives say anything. But conservatives can say anything. That's the thing. It's not that conservatives, whenever conservatives open their mouths, they aren't allowed to speak. It's just that very often the conservatives are the ones like opening their mouths and saying the N-word, and then they get banned off of social media, and then they cry to Jack Posobiec about it.
Believe in free speech, not for you.
Let me ask you as we wrap up here.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you? Let's sort of project down the future, crystal ball time, looking down the road here in the on the election, for the campaign for the election. Are you? Where do you see the Catholic vote? And I know there's a big question: is there actually a Catholic vote? There's kind of two Catholic.
I just want to point out, chat, that like when I first looked at the clock on this stream, it was 1 hour and 20 minutes. When next I looked at the clock, it was 3 hours and 40 minutes. When I just looked at the clock just now, we've just passed 6 hours of stream. I can't believe that I make this much content. Yeah, they are seriously loud for silenced motherfuckers.
Votes, but do you see a resurgence of a Catholic vote support for Trump? Because Obama won Catholics both times, and
there's
Trump seems to have
definitely-
won
right.
them last time.
There's definitely a split Catholic vote, and I think it's due to a lot of those dynamics that we were just talking about. However, the pro-life community is
See a
what's
real
sort of
rad
changing
hum.
that. And the fact that the president has been so openly pro-life, has supported these judges. I mean, I go to the March for Life every year. I wasn't actually there when at the Lincoln Memorial when all the Covington Catholic stuff happened, but
Good for him.
I can say, by the way, that we do have a little something planned for this year in regards to that, but for operational security reasons, I can't say what it is yet, but we've got something in the works for this year to make sure
Good.
something like that doesn't happen again. But you see the way that the pro-life movement is not necessarily
I'm glad non-binary superpowers.
a political movement in the sense that it's not left or right, traditionally, because I see
Yeah.
folks that'll come out to that they're not necessarily conservative politically, they're not One American News watchers, they may not even be that engaged in politics to begin with,
Right.
but they're strongly pro-life. This is the single issue voter, right? This is the concept of a single issue voter. So I see the pro-life community as exploding. I see it as absolutely exploding, especially in the past couple of years. The movie Unplanned, Unplanned.
Unplanned.
Just absolutely phenomenal movie, so popular, and
Oh my gosh. Y'all, we need to do like a viewing of like Christian apologia films because they are legitimately hilarious. Like Unplanned is a really funny movie. Especially like if you get the right crowd together, it's a really funny film. Or like oh man, there's a movie called Old Fashioned that I've wanted to see about like a guy who just does not fuck, and he finds a girl who also does not fuck, and they get together and do not fuck, and it's a romantic movie.
and the way that it's been invigorated, also organizations like Lila Roses, the
Sure.
Life Action,
Sure.
it's really going to drive home this idea that because the pro-life movement has gotten so much traction And because the president's administration is so plugged in with them, I really think that that's going to translate into more votes from a Catholic perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would just be sort of a
Narrator. It did not.
natural,
Right.
consequence of it. Is there what do you think is should be the most pressing issue on the mind of a Catholic voter? Not necessarily when they go into the voting booth on the 3rd, second or third, whatever the Tuesday is, but as they're listening to all this, Americans are traditionally tuned out of the campaign until after Labor Day, and then they don't really get involved until October. What should you be listening for if you're a Catholic voter? What's the thing? What's the language? What is it? What
are the dog whistles you need to hear?
You can say most people say abortion. Okay. What else?
Right. Well, abortion would be the easy answer, but really, you have to look for folks who are, and I understand that President Trump isn't necessarily the best communicator on this, but when you're looking at different movements, there's one movement in America that is traditional, that is trying to restore our Constitution, which is based on conservative moral values. There is another movement in America that is trying to upend the Constitution, that is trying to impose upon the country a humanist, cult of man, sort of amoral.
Yeah, you should have a government that caters specifically to your religion. Yeah. These people would fucking lose their minds if they saw a Quran in their kids' classroom.